We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
2 days after talks between the leaders of the U.S. and North Korea ended without them reaching a deal on denuclearization, analysts say new satellite images of North Korea suggest it is now restoring a rocket launch site it had pledged to dismantle.
One of the doctors involved in a landmark medical case which has been hailed as proof that a cure for HIV may be possible says the challenge now is to build the findings into a more scalable solution.
Cases of measles in Vancouver schools prompt authorities to issue a warning. Our EBC correspondent Kathleen Cruz will give us an update later.
Global trade tensions and political uncertainty are weighing on the world's economy. The OECD warned, cutting its global growth forecast for this year to 3.3%, down from the 3.5% it predicted in November.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Activity has been detected at a North Korean long-range rocket site, suggesting Pyongyang may be pursuing the rapid rebuilding of the facility after the collapse of the Hanoi summit, according to analysis of satellite imagery. Another research website suggested the rebuilding of the site may have even started before last week's meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump. The summit ended abruptly after the pair failed to reach an agreement on walking back Pyongyang's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. The renewed activity was recorded 2 days after the talks and may demonstrate resolve in the face of U.S. rejection of the North's request for an easing of sanctions. That is according to researchers at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS. Activity has been detected at the North Korean long-range rocket site, suggesting Pyongyang may be pursuing the rapid rebuilding of this facility after the collapse of the Hanoi summit. Another research website suggested the rebuilding of the site may have started even before the meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Trump. The renewed activity was recorded 2 days after the talks and may demonstrate resolve in the face of U.S. rejection. This facility had been dormant since August 2018, indicating the current activity is deliberate and purposeful, according to them.
North Korea recorded its worst harvest for more than a decade last year, the United Nations said, as natural disasters combined with its lack of arable land and inefficient agriculture to hit production. The isolated North, which is under several sets of sanctions over its nuclear weapon and ballistic missile programs, has long struggled to feed itself and suffers chronic food shortages. But last year's harvest was just 4.95 million tons, the United Nations said in its needs and priorities assessment for 2019, down by 500,000 tons. As a result, 10.9 million people in the North needed humanitarian assistance, 600,000 more than last year, with a potential for increased malnutrition and illness. The impoverished North has been frequently condemned by the international community for decades of prioritizing the military and its nuclear weapons program over adequately providing for its people, an imbalance some critics say the UN's aid program encourages. Ahead of his Hanoi summit with leader Kim Jong-un last week, U.S. President Donald Trump repeatedly dangled the prospect of the North becoming an economic powerhouse if it gave up its arsenal, but the two were unable to reach a deal.
Jailed former South Korean President Lee Myung-bak was granted bail on Wednesday, nearly a year after he was arrested over corruption charges. The CEO turned president, who served from 2008 to 2013, was found guilty on charges including bribery and embezzlement and sentenced to 15 years in prison last October. But the Seoul High Court approved the request for bail that the 77-year-old Lee made on the grounds of ill health, according to the South Yonhap news agency. Lee made the request in January, citing old age and potential health complications from diabetes and sleep apnea. Lee was found guilty of creating slush funds of tens of millions of dollars and accepting bribes from Samsung Electronics in return for a presidential pardon for its chairman Lee Kun-hee, who was jailed for tax evasion. The conservative politician has denied any wrongdoing and labeled the allegation as political revenge. South Korean presidents have a tendency to end up in prison after their time in power, usually once their political rivals have moved into the presidential Blue House. All four of South Korea's living presidents have been convicted of criminal offenses. Lee's successor, Park Geun-hye, was sentenced to 25 years in prison and fined millions of dollars for bribery and abuse of power. She was ousted in 2017 over a nationwide corruption scandal that prompted massive street protests.
R&B superstar R. Kelly denied allegations he sexually abused women and girls in his first public comments since being indicted last month. Kelly has been accused of sexual misconduct before. In 2002, he was charged after allegedly filming himself having sex with a 14-year-old girl. He was tried and acquitted of child pornography charges in 2008. Now he says his reputation is being used against him. He dismissed the allegations against him as rumors.
You have never held anybody against their will.
I don't need to. Why would I?
Well,
how stupid would it be for R. Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past 50, you said? How stupid would I be to do that?
I didn't say you were holding...
That's stupid, guy.
Talking about you with underage girls. Do you still sit here and say you have never been with underage girls? Can you really say that?
I sit here and say this. I had 2 cases back then that I said in the beginning of the interview that I would not talk about because of my ongoing case now.
Talking about the one case in which you were acquitted, I'm talking about the other cases where women have come forward and said, R. Kelly had sex with me when I was under the age of 18. R. Kelly was abusive to me emotionally and physically and verbally.
Okay.
R. Kelly took me in a black room where unspeakable things happened. About you. These aren't old rumors.
Not true. Whether they're old rumors, new rumors,
why would they
future
say this
rumors,
about you?
Not true.
Robert.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Is this camera on me?
Yes, it's on.
That's stupid. Use your common sense. Don't forget the blogs. Forget how you feel about me. Hate me if you want to, love me if you want, but just use your common sense. How stupid would it be for me to, with my crazy past and what I've been through, oh, right now I just think I need to be a monster and hold girls against their will, chain them up in my basement, and don't let them eat and don't let them out unless they need some shoes down the street from their uncle. What?
Okay.
I will tell you this. People are going back to my past, okay? That's exactly what they're doing. They're going back to the past, and they're trying to add all of this stuff now to that, to make all of the stuff that's going on now feels real to people.
Kelly, 52, pleaded not guilty late last month in Chicago, 10 counts of aggravated criminal sex abuse. He spent 3 nights behind bars, was released after coming up with $100,000 10% of the $1 million bail set in court. The acts are alleged to have occurred between May 1998 and January 2010, according to prosecutors.
Cases of measles in Vancouver schools prompted authorities to issue a warning. Our ABC correspondent in Canada, Kathleen Cruz, reports from Squamish, British Columbia.
Health authorities in British Columbia issued a warning on a surge in measles cases in Greater Vancouver and surrounding Lower Mainland. The current disturbing trend of measles cases is happening at a global level, even including the areas where vaccination rate is usually high.
Vancouver Coastal Health spokeswoman Tiffany Atkins confirmed 15 cases of measles in the Greater Vancouver area. The confirmed reports of measles are from school-based outbreaks linked to traveling outside of North America and from 2 adults who recently traveled and returned from the Philippines, where an outbreak had already 1,813 confirmed cases in January 2019 alone.
It's not typical that we would have local transmission of measles here. We do, of course, see people who travel, who pick up the illness while they were traveling and come back here, but usually it doesn't typically spread from there. If anyone is planning to visit certain areas of the world, including the U.S., Asia, the Pacific, and Africa, any locations with measles circulating, and they have never had the infection or they have not had 2 doses of vaccine, then they should make an appointment to get the free vaccine before they go on vacation.
The health authority identified places of possible exposure, including YVR international arrivals, domestic departure area, McDonald's restaurant in Squamish, and other places in Vancouver, Richmond, and Whistler.
Yes, of course. Everywhere is safe, and we want people to go out and about and enjoy themselves. The locations that we've released were places where someone infected with measles visited while they were contagious. The measles virus can live in an environment such as a bathroom or a room up to 2 hours after an infected person has left. So considering all of those exposures were several days ago, they're all safe to visit now.
Measles is highly contagious infectious disease caused by the measles virus that spreads through air by droplets that have been coughed, sneeze, or breathe in by an infected person. It can also spread by direct contact through sharing of food and drinks. Symptoms include fever, cough, runny nose, and watery, inflamed eyes. Rashes on the face begin on the 3rd to 7th day of illness and last up to 4 to 7 days, spreading to the chest. Health officials recommend children to get 2 vaccine shots against measles, mumps, and rubella, or NMR, before they enter kindergarten, as it is available for free as part of the BC Childhood Immunization Schedule at 12 months and at school entry at 4 to 6 years of age. Adults are also advised to check and locate their immunization records. Without these, they are considered unprotected and should get vaccination for protection at no cost to them.
Reporting from Squamish, British Columbia, I am Kathleen Cruz, and I am 1 with 25.
The UN agency leading the global effort to end AIDS said that a new case of a patient who has been functionally cured of HIV infection is greatly encouraging, but there is still a long way to go before the illness can be eradicated.
Our colleagues at UNAIDS say they are greatly encouraged by the news that an HIV-positive man has been functionally cured of HIV. The results reported at a conference in Seattle is one of only 2 cases of reported functional cures for HIV. The man treated in London's for Hodgkin's lymphoma using stem cell transplant from a donor carrying a rare genetic mutation. The virus has been undetectable since he stopped taking antiretroviral medicines 18 months ago. Michelle CDB, the executive director of UNAIDS, said the breakthrough gives us great hope for the future, but also shows how far we are from the point of ending AIDS with science, as well as the absolute importance to continue to focus on HIV prevention and treatment efforts.
There is currently no cure for HIV. UNAIDS is working to ensure that all people living with and affected by HIV have access to life-saving HIV prevention, treatment, care, and support services. In 2017, there were 36.9 million people living with HIV, and 1.8 million people became newly infected with the virus. In the same year, almost 1 million people died of AIDS-related illnesses, and 21.7 million people had access to treatment.
One of the doctors involved in a landmark medical case, which has been hailed as proof that a cure for HIV may be possible, says the challenge now is to build the findings into a more scalable solution. Take a listen.
We had an HIV positive individual who was diagnosed with a very aggressive lymphoma that was not responsive to treatment. Last line of therapy is to do an allogeneic stem cell transplantation, finding a matched donor and doing a bone marrow transplant or a stem cell transplant, and that's what happened in this case. We know that cells can be resistant by deletion of the CCR5 gene, and we know that in Europeans this occurs in about 1% of individuals. So they were able to find somebody of European descent with a good tissue match for the patient and do the transplant. We then monitored his response, made sure that the HIV was undetectable in various assays before stopping his antiretroviral therapy, and that happened 18 months ago. So we now have 18 months of remission without any antiretroviral drugs. The challenges will be about translation of this work to a more scalable solution, and so that will require some engineering, let's say, knowledge of chemotherapeutic agents, knowledge of how cells behave, how they live, how they die. So a lot more basic science, I think, is necessary for this. It's the next step in dealing with the epidemic, part of a strategy potentially. Of course, treatment we know works and it limits transmission and it saves lives, and that must continue. But there are other approaches. Of course, sustainability of ART programs worldwide is not certain. Funding is not secure necessarily, and so having other options, I think, is an important thing.
I think a lot of people are very excited that the London patient may be cured of HIV, because it really gives us a lot of hope that we're starting to build a really much more in-depth knowledge of what it's going to take to cure HIV.
10 years after the first confirmed case of an HIV-infected person being rid of the deadly disease, a man known only as the London patient has shown no sign of the virus for nearly 19 months, doctors reported in the journal Nature. Both had received bone marrow transplants to treat blood cancers, receiving stem cells from donors with genetic mutation present in less than 1% of Europeans that prevents HIV from taking hold.
The death toll from last week's collapsed gold mine in northern Indonesia has risen to 16 as hopes to find survivors fade, an official said. 18 people have been pulled alive but injured from the illegal mine on Sulawesi Island, but it is unclear how many were inside when the accident happened last Tuesday. Painstaking rescue efforts have been hampered by steep terrain, unstable soil, and dangerously narrow mining shafts. National Disaster Agency spokesman Sutopo Purwo Nugroho said The evacuation team has been working 24 hours non-stop since Monday, when the site was deemed safe for search teams. For the first few days, the team had to dig by hand to reach survivors because of the precarious conditions. Rescuers also had to temporarily halt the search on Tuesday after rocks started to fall on them. The accident happened in the Bulaang Mongondao region of North Sulawesi, where 5 miners were killed in December after a similar illegal gold mine accident. Mineral-rich Indonesia has scores of unlicensed mines, many with complete disregard for even the most basic of safety procedures.
In other news, Environment Secretary Roy Cimatu is asking for patience in relation to the snail-paced rehabilitation of Boracay 4 months after it was reopened in October last year. He said, "We know the roads are still dusty and we ask the patience. The Boracay rehabilitation is still a work in progress," according to Cimatu in a statement. The Boracay Interagency Task Force, or BIATF, recently held its second meeting for 2019 in Taguig City. Part of the ongoing process on the island, which Cimatu reported on, was the expected completion by June of a government hospital that would address the medical needs of tourists and workers alike. He added that the Department of Public Works and Highways would soon eliminate unsightly overhead spaghetti cables and place them underground. DPWH Assistant Regional Director Jose Alvi Fruto said that in the first phase of the rehabilitation, the agency had completed the 4-kilometer stretch of the main road from Cagban Jetty Port to the Elizalde property, as well as the 600-meter road along Bulabog Beach. Fruto added that the agency aims to make 5 kilometers of sidewalks walkable by mid-March and a total of 15 to 20 kilometers of roads completed by the end of the 2-year rehabilitation period. Meanwhile, Bernadette Romulo Puyat of the Department of Tourism reported that as of February 18, the DOT had accredited more than 300 establishments, equivalent to more than 11,600 rooms. Permission has also been granted for the conduct of 3 events on the island. Cimatu also confirmed that both the DENR and the DILG have identified for demolition 10 establishments that have been non-compliant to regulations on easement along the beach and road. The environment chief said that some of the resorts continued to operate despite violations. They would be given 15 days to self-demolish or have their properties demolished by the government.
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be
Coming dry spell brought by the El Nino phenomenon is a concern but will not likely affect the country's inflation rate this year, according to the President's economic team and local economists. In a joint statement, the National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, Department of Finance, and the Department of Budget and Management acknowledged that the El Nino might hamper food production, but the impact on inflation will not be alarming. The Philippine Statistics Agency reported that inflation slowed to 3.8% in February, the same rate it registered in February 2018. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas said the February figure is consistent with its expectation that price pressures are now further easing and that it sees inflation to settle to the target range of 2 to 4% in 2019 and 2020. The inflation rate for February 2019 is lower than the 4.4% recorded in January. Meanwhile, the economic team cited data from Pagasa, which showed the El Nino will continue until June 2019. Ateneo Center for Economic Research and Development Director Alvin P. Ang and University of Asia and the Pacific School of Economics Dean Sid Terosa said that while commodity prices may increase due to El Nino, the increase would not be significant for two reasons. Ang said the El Nino being predicted by the government is only a mild one and may not be as worrisome. He added that the country still enjoys ample food supply and he hoped a good harvest will keep high inflation at bay. For his part, Terosa said the increase in inflation will not be as high as last year due to base effects. He said the El Nino phenomenon can create a strong upward push on food prices. Hence, it can push up inflation. Since inflation was quite high last year, the possible increase in prices this year due to El Nino will still appear low relative to last year.
Japan and the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, of the United Nations will start implementing their $1.76 million agricultural training program for the Bangsamoro region in March 2019, and this was announced by the FAO. FAO Philippines Director Jose Luis Fernandez, during the signing of exchange of notes with Japanese Ambassador Koji Haneda in Ortigas, expressed optimism the initiative would be able to significantly contribute to promoting inclusive growth in the region. Fernandez also underscored that the project is supportive of the government's Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. Aside from the agricultural sector, the program's area of intervention includes fisheries, with target beneficiaries of around 2,000 farmers and fisherfolk and their households. The project, which is expected to run from March 2019 to February of 2020, seeks to improve the agriculture-based vocational skills of former combatants, indigenous people, and out-of-school youth as normalization process starts in the region. In implementing the initiative, FAO will be coordinating with the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, the Department of Agriculture, as well as the Mindanao Development Authority.
Former Nissan chief Carlos Gon left a detention in Tokyo on bail, ending more than 100 days in custody after being arrested on alleged financial misconduct. Gon left the detention center in northern Tokyo, flanked by guards wearing a blue cap, a white medical face mask, and a work jacket with orange reflective stripes. Strict bail conditions, including video surveillance, were set as conditions for release. Gon's life was turned upside down on November 19 when Japanese prosecutors stormed his aircraft, brandishing multiple accusations of financial misconduct and whisking him off to the Tokyo Detention Center. There, he languished for more than 100 days until Wednesday, when he walked out after being granted bail of nearly $9 million. In the space of 2 months, The 64-year-old was sacked from Japanese car giants Nissan and Mitsubishi Motors and resigned from French manufacturer Renault. He has already lost his business empire, but the battle to clear his name is just beginning. Gon is convinced he is the victim of a plot by Nissan executives to oust him and strenuously denies the charges he faces of underreporting his salary and seeking to transfer personal investment losses to company books.
Global trade tensions and political uncertainty are weighing on the world's economy. The OECD warned Wednesday, cutting its global growth forecast for this year to 3.3%, down from the 3.5% it predicted in November. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which groups the world's top developed economies, also warned of potential risks, including China's slowdown, sharpening, and knock-on effects in the event of a no-deal Brexit. High policy uncertainty, ongoing trade tensions, and a further erosion of business and consumer confidence are all contributing to the slowdown, the Paris-based OECD said in an interim version of its economic outlook. The OECD revised growth downwards in almost all of the countries in the G20 group of industrialized and emerging nations. The 19-nation Eurozone was particularly hard hit, with predicted growth dropping from 1.8% to 1%.
Toyota is teaming up with Japan's space agency on a planned mission to the moon, with the Japanese auto giant expected to develop a lunar rover, officials and local media said. It will be the car manufacturer's first full-fledged entry into space exploration after the company jointly developed a small robot sent to the International Space Station. Details will be announced by JAXA and Toyota Tuesday next week, when the space agency hosts a symposium in Tokyo, the spokesman told AFP. Toyota also confirmed plans to announce a joint project with JAXA on mobility and a space probe, but declined to comment further. GG Press News Agency said the car giant is expected to jointly develop a mobility method to be used by the lunar surface for the mission. The mission is part of renewed global interest in the moon, sometimes called the eighth continent of the Earth, and comes 50 years after American astronauts first walked on the lunar surface. Before humans set foot on the lunar surface again, NASA aims to land an unmanned vehicle on the moon by 2024. So far, only Russia, the United States, and China have made the 384,000-kilometer journey and landed spacecraft on the moon. Last month, Israel launched a spacecraft that aims to join them. In 2017, Japan revealed plans to put an astronaut on the moon around 2030.
Forward, drift into the right a little. Straight shadow.
An Israeli spacecraft on its maiden mission to the moon has sent its first selfie back to Earth, according to mission chiefs on Tuesday. Take a look. The image showing part of the Bereshit spacecraft with Earth in the background was beamed to mission control in Yehud, Israel, 37,600 kilometers away, the project's lead partner said in a statement. The partners, NGO SpaceIL and state-owned Israel's aerospace industries, launched the unmanned Bereshit, Hebrew for Genesis, from Cape Canaveral in Florida on February 22. The 585-kilogram craft took off atop a Falcon 9 rocket from the private U.S.-based SpaceX company of Elon Musk. The trip is scheduled to last 7 weeks, with the Bereshit due to touchdown on April 11.
We take you now to the recent World Mobile Congress held in Barcelona, Spain. At the scene is Marco Alipio.
intelligent connectivity, where broad technology industries demonstrate how applied intelligence is rapidly changing on how we live and work.
The Mobile World Congress 2019, or MWC 2019, held in Barcelona, Spain, focused on the life-changing potential of 5G with its theme, Intelligent Connectivity. There were many leading technology companies that showcased 5G products and services at MWC 2019. There were exhibitions of the latest 5G foldable mobile phones. There were also 5G robotics, which aim to make companies and home tasks faster and easier.
I'm Daisy.
It showed how Internet of Things, or IoT, change our lives now for the better and define our world in the future. I'm Marco Alipio, and I'm Juan with 25.
The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset.
Welcome back. Each day, more than 6 billion people, one-third of them children, inhale air so polluted that it puts their lives, health, and well-being at risk, a UN expert on human rights and the environment said. David Boyd described air pollution, both in and outside the home, as a silent killer, responsible for the premature death of 7 million people each year, including 600,000 children. He stressed that failing to ensure clean air constitutes a violation of the fundamental right to a healthy environment, a right that's legally recognized by 155 states. Noting that air pollutants are everywhere, he urged all states to recognize that right. While air pollution is largely caused by burning fossil fuels for electricity, transportation, and heating, it also comes from industrial activities, poor waste management, and agricultural practices, said the independent expert.
Yes, there is winter in the Hawaiian Islands. It's hard to believe that there are seasons in Hawaii, but there are actually two kau, which means summer, and Julio, that's winter. And February is normally their coldest month. However, temperatures and conditions this season have been unusual even for long-time residents. For a look back on Hawaii's winter, here is Charmaine Serrera with more.
So I live up country and it gets kind of chilly there already, but having the snow there and not knowing there was snow, we woke up in the morning and it was freezing. Then when we got downtown, we look up at the mountain, we see the snow before we even hear about it on the news, and it was beautiful. And we do get snow here in Haleakala every few years, but this year was the most we've ever gotten, and just seeing everyone's reaction to it, and just knowing that the whole world can see this, it's really awesome.
According to a study at the University of Washington earlier this year, a large weather system in the Pacific Ocean was triggering a cold jet stream, causing warmer temperatures in Alaska but unusually cold weather in Hawaii.
So I work for air traffic. I work for the Federal Aviation Administration. We have equipment that we take care of on Haleakala, and with the recent snow that came onto the mountain and it lasts for 6 days, it impacted us quite a bit because we can't do maintenance. There were things that needed to be fixed and we couldn't go up there because the roads are closed due to dangerous conditions. But at the same time, it was actually really nice to see from the bottom. It doesn't happen here on the islands often, but when it does, it's pretty awesome.
Although Oahu did not see snow, most of the island did encounter flood-causing rains and blustery conditions, typical around this time of year.
So how has the weather been these past few days in Hawaii?
Cold and windy. Jacket. Still very cold, even though it's sunny.
How about the rain? How's the rain been lately? Have you had any trouble with any flooding?
I got such a small car, I feel like I'm floating into it.
Meanwhile, waves on Oahu's North Shore, where surf competitions take place, were attractively large but choppy and inconsistent, making them dangerous even for professional surfers. Just like the shortest month of the year, winter in Hawaii simply came and went. Temperatures for the rest of 2019 are expected to rise beginning in March. Reporting from the Big Island of Hawaii, this is Charmaine Serrera, 1 with 25.
As many as 74 Komodo dragon babies have hatched at the Surabaya Zoo in Indonesia's East Java province from January to February this year. The babies hatched from 114 eggs, which had been incubated since mid-last year. The eggs came from 7 female Komodo dragons. The Surabaya Zoo is now home to 142 Komodo dragons, according to Cherul Anwar, the zoo's director. The endangered species is the world's biggest lizard and endemic to several small islands in eastern Indonesia. The Komodo National Park in East Nusa Tenggara province is the only place in the world where Komodo dragons can be seen in their natural habitat. The slavering carnivores, which can grow to around 3 meters or 10 feet in length and weigh up to 70 kilograms or 154 pounds, can be dangerous to humans, although deadly attacks are rare.
We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized centers in medical services, backed by several experienced physicians in Chinese medicine. At an accuracy rate of 98%, countless patients who visited Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated have already been treated and cured.
Marami ko ospital na napuntahan, pero wala ring nangyayari. Somebody introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated. After 2 treatments, gumanda ang pakiramdam ko.
My friends introduced me Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, and luckily, I got cured. So I sincerely want to thank the doctors of Manila-Beijing Medical Associated.
For the past 30 years, ang dami ko nang na-take na mga gamot. Nothing happened to me. So until one my friend introduced me to Manila-Beijing Medical Associated, you know what? All my illness was cured.
For any health problems or incurable diseases, you can visit Manila-Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated, located at 843B Sabino Padilla Street, Binondo, Manila.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
In football, Santiago Solari insisted he would not resign as coach of Real Madrid despite his team being dumped out of the Champions League last 16 by Ajax on Tuesday. Madrid were trashed 4-1 at home to lose the tie 5-3 on aggregate and failed to reach the competition's quarterfinals for the first time since 2010. It means they have been knocked out of the Copa del Rey, La Liga's title race, and now Europe in the space of 7 days. Solari was handed a contract until 2021 when he took over from Julian Lopetegui in November, but the humiliating defeat means he may not last the season, let alone beyond the summer. Real Madrid had won the Champions League for the last 3 years in a row, but Ajax were unfortunate to lose the opening leg in Amsterdam 2-1 and deserving winners at the Santiago Bernabeu. Hakim Ziyech and David Neres put Ajax 2 up at the halftime, and the excellent Dusan Tadic made it 3 before Marco Asensio gave Madrid hope. But it lasted only 2 minutes as Lassie Scone sent a bending free kick into the top corner before Nacho was sent off in injury time. And in Major League Soccer, the Vancouver Whitecaps lost their home season opener 3-2 to the Minnesota United. Here's Anthony Sevilla for the story.
It's week 1 of MLS action, where Minnesota United FC defeated the Vancouver Whitecaps 3-2 here at BC Place Stadium. The main headline today was focused on the home team Whitecaps, who introduced 17 new faces to their soccer club, as well as a new head coach and system. A sold-out BC Place Stadium of 27,000 plus fans were in attendance for the Whitecaps season opener, where plenty of questions surrounded an almost completely new roster led by new head coach Marc Dos Santos after the team's disappointing end to the 2018 season. Vancouver utilized the energy from the fans, opening up the scoring just 5 minutes upon kickoff. However, the Whitecaps' momentum shifted greatly after giving up a penalty in their box, resulting in a free kick, which Minnesota took advantage of. Minnesota would get back-to-back goals to go up 3-1. The Whitecaps would eventually answer back, making it 3-2 in the 80th minute. However, Vancouver would not be able to tie up the game, as Minnesota would prevail to get their first ever win at BC Place. Minnesota head coach Adrian Heath gave his thoughts on his team's win and why his players were able to turn it around in the first half.
So to come back to get it to 2-1 after you've gone down so early shows a lot of character. But as I said before the game, this is a different group than we've had before.
You know, these haven't got any baggage from the last couple of years of going on the road and losing games and not being able to dig themselves out of bad situations. This is a different group, and I said that before the game. I thought some of our play at times on the counter-attack was outstanding. With a little bit of better finishing, we could have killed the game off before we did. I thought there was a lot of good performances, but as I said before to the guys, it's what it is. It's a start. We've got a good start. Now we've got to go again next week in San Jose.
The Whitecaps showed their disappointment in the loss, mainly due to the back-to-back goals that were given up by his team.
For me, it's the kind of goals we gave away. The 2-1 and the 3-1 are kind of sloppy, and I think we could do a much better job there. Then we scored the 3-2. We react, we push. Everybody was very committed until the end, but a little bit too late.
Well, we just have to be a little bit more on the same page here. And stick to our principles, where I think we can get out of there way easier than we actually did. But there's room for improvement, that's for sure. Daniel just mentioned it. After a week, we have to build it up, and now we'll definitely work on it.
Yeah, we're frustrated. I thought that we controlled certain parts of this game. To see the numbers that came out today for the home opener, I'm gutted for the fans. I hope they continue to come and stay behind us, because it's a long season. We believe what Mark is doing. We trained really hard, and as you've seen, our attitude didn't change from the first to the last second of the game. The guys will work hard, and we'll continue to get better. You know, with 1 week of training, this is what we can do. And you've seen glimpses of players do really good things. So we're trying to make it right for Saturday, and that's what we continue to want to do for the rest of the season.
Vancouver will try to bounce back from this loss on the road in Week 2 when they face off against Real Salt Lake, while Minnesota United will continue their road trip in San Jose to take on the Earthquakes. Reporting from Vancouver, Canada, I'm Anthony Sevilla, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Anthony. And in the NBA, James Harden scored 35 points on a poor shooting night, and Gerald Green added 18 off the bench Tuesday as the Houston Rockets beat Toronto 107-95 in a showdown of NBA title contenders. NBA scoring leader Harden went 12 of 30 from the floor, sinking only 3 of 9 from three-point range, but struck 19 points in the fourth quarters as the Rockets stretched their win streak to 6 games. Chris Paul had 10 assists, and Clint Capella grabbed 15 rebounds for the Rockets, who moved level for third in the Western Conference with the Portland and Oklahoma City at 39-25. It was the second loss in a row for the Raptors, who fell to 46-19, 2.5 games behind Eastern Conference leader Milwaukee. Kawhi Leonard led Toronto with 26 points, while Cameroon's Pascal Siakam added 17 points and 10 rebounds, and Spain's Serge Ibaka had 10 points and 15 rebounds. And meanwhile, these are the results of the other games today in the NBA. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Ben and Anthony.
Thank you, guys. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we're 1 with 25.